Hello and welcome to the Scoutcast. My name is Joe.
My name is Dad.
My name is Dad too.
Hey, all the dads, and I'm a dad as well, but I'm not a new dad, unlike you two. So,
Oh,
Seb,
what was it Andy called you just before we started?
granddad. I'm the
Grandad.
granddad apparently.
Grandad Joe.
As those who watched the captaincy video earlier will notice, I've had to wear glasses for reading, and I've started wearing them for looking at the computer screen as well. And it's been a revelation. I can't understand why there's attention to detail now on such things, but yeah. So I'm adjusting to life with new eyes at the moment, and I'm of course the granddad of the show. Seb, son, what's coming up in the show?
Dad? So we will look back at game week 8. We will look forward, of course, to our teams for the coming game week 9. But between those two things, we're going to have a look at the best captains in this coming week and the recent performances of Ronaldo and Lukaku. We'll have a look at mid-price midfielders. Who can we replace in our team? Who should we replace them with? And the over and underachievers make a return, I assume, because I've not been here, so no one probably cared. So we'll bring that up. And then we'll have a look at, of course, the usual, the 4 fixtures, the differentials, and Alex's team, the community team we are managing for him.
Excellent. Right. Okay. Let's have a look at our game week. So for the first time in a while, I'm top, surprisingly, with 71. I can't claim any credit in it. I went into this game week doing absolutely nothing. I saved my transfer. I decided to not overmanage. I decided to go back to basics, trust Salah with the armband, and that was about it really. And see how the old template did. And by the old template, we're talking the likes of Jota and Greenwood. Yeah, so I did all right. 71 points. Got Raya in goal, just a blank there. I got a blank from Salah, Antonio and Ronaldo. But I got points from all 5 of my defenders. I only played 3 of them. So Livramento and Cody. I managed to get Cody's annual goal somehow. So Alexander-Arnold, Cancelo, Livramento, Cody and Christensen all got me returns. Greenwood 2, Salah captain, 26 points. Thank you very much. Massive shock of the week for my team was that Armstrong, who I got home for this great run for Southampton, appears to now be dropped as, by all accounts, not Southampton's main striker anymore. So I think when it comes to the end of the show, I may bench him over Livramento. Who is the better option out of Livramento and Armstrong? I think it's Livramento at the moment. So planning wise, I'm okay. Got 2 free transfers, by the way. People look at my team and go, "Oh my god!" For next week, but I've got 2 free transfers, and I will be using them definitely. So it will be very different to this. So first time I think I've ever had 5 defenders all returning for me. So I'm not sure I've ever gone Cody deep before, but it's worked out well. Seb, good week for you as well. So green arrows all round for all of us. All pretty near each other in the rankings as well.
Yeah, we're really close, aren't we?
Seb, 61 points. You must be pretty pleased.
Yeah, it's decent enough. 65 with a -4, which was Bamford to Lukaku and Fernandes to Foden. I wanted to do Fernandes to De Bruyne, but I missed the price change, which meant I couldn't do it. And to be fair, it probably would have been a bad move because I wouldn't have been able to get Lukaku for planning ahead. But like you, I had a clean sweep in defence with Sanchez with 6, Cancelo 6, Livramento 6, Alexander-Arnold 6. Captain Salah, of course, like everyone else. Benrahma, Foden and Brownhill in the midfield, who came in for one of the many flagged players this week. Jimenez, Antonio, and then the aforementioned Lukaku up front. And it hasn't really changed that much since I think I last spoke to you. I've still got the wild card, which I'm relatively pleased with. Although admittedly, like if I'd used it a few weeks ago, I'd have a better team. So pretty even there. But I'm happy going forward. I will probably not be taking a hit this week, just one move, which we'll talk about a bit later.
Okay. And Andy, good week for you as well. Green arrow.
Yep.
Very similar, 59 points. So, cool. I see Jota and Rudiger were in your team and then came out, but looks like the replacement. I'm not sure if the replacements did okay, but yeah, take us through your team.
Yeah, no worries. So, 59. I used my 2 free transfers. I got rid of, God, I've got to remember what it was now. I got rid of Shaw for Cancelo, and I got rid of Traore, who finally got an assist when I got rid of him.
Oh, did you get? Oh, mate.
Yeah, I know. I got rid of Traore
Typical.
for Mbumo and Buemo. And actually, I wanted to make that move anyway because I want him ready for game week 10. So I felt quite good about it. Cancelo, obviously, there was a lot of worries about him, whether he was going to play. And in the end, it was Diaz that didn't play, which nobody really saw coming, did they? So I think my back line did very well. And obviously, Salah kind of carried the rest of my team. Livramento came in, which was brilliant for Rudiger that didn't play. I was a bit gutted about Rudiger not playing, but it looks like he's going to be back next week anyway. But 59 points, I'm quite happy with that considering some of the nightmares people had this week. There was a lot of people getting cameos, 1 point cameos from a lot of players this week. So I think I'll take it. I'm very happy moving forward. I've got a few little issues now. Ronaldo to Lukaku is pretty much definitely going to happen. But I want to make sure Saka's going to be playing. But then I've got Jota and Rudiger. I'm not going to be that surprised if Jota plays this week. Rudiger most likely will play. So I'm not looking too bad moving forward. So yeah, no, very happy with 59 points.
Well, last week while you were nappy changing during the show, we had Praz and Karam on. And one thing that Praz was doing, because he was wildcarding, he was looking at that very issue of cameos. And he had some really good research about who actually does cameo. And does it actually matter if that player is rotated? Because are they the sort of player that never comes on? They're either they play and do well, or you never see them, in which case have a good sub. And so amongst those were the likes of Cancelo and Diaz, who it actually did come on. That's very rare. Yeah. But Rudiger, Christensen, these are all the better. Chilwell, Alonso as well. These are players. If you see them in the starting lineup, that's good. If they're not, hope you have a good sub. But then the likes of, say, James, for example, is in that camp of players that come on at the end. There is always the danger of that 1 point return. But yeah, there were so many last week. I think a lot of people were caught out. If with a bit of research, maybe it would have been less. But at the same time, there were players like Diaz. No fault. You're never going to expect that either. Just before we move on, I just want to welcome those that are joining us very early in the show. Mark O'Leary, fantastic Mark, you were here for the captaincy video as well, good to see you again. David, Fikri, Eshan, Jack Brokenshire, who was also at the captaincy video as well, welcome back Jack. George, Praz, who we've just been talking about. Praz is in the chat, his ears must be burning. And Matthew, Ben, and FPL Scope. So welcome all of you. Good to see you all here. Only 19 likes though. So please press like. If you don't like it, just press it anyway. If you do like it, just press it, smash it, like it, whatever the young people say on YouTube these days. So Andy, you've got some rough with the smooth, but I've got one just before you do it, because this is within my mini league amongst friends. I've got not the fantasy football scout people, they're all friends, but these are not my real friends, real life.
Wow.
Ow, Grandad, ow.
Only joking. And my other friends.
Grandparents always get to that point, don't they? They have no filter after a while.
There's no filter. So he's called David Mccormack. They're an old friend of mine, and he wildcarded, and it's fantastic. So he got 65 here, and I mean, it was a really good wildcard. I mean, you had a few things like, say, for example, we got Alonso in, and that didn't work out, but it's worth a go. We got Bernardo in. Who got Bernardo in? He did 11 points. Lots of, you've got Livramento there on the bench, but Duffy, Cancelo, obviously captained Salah. It's fantastic. That's the smooth bit. The rough bit is this. Yep, he forgot to press the button. So he in fact got well under 20 points. It cost him 48 points. I got in contact with him as soon as I saw this, and because my immediate thing was, has he been hacked? Because that's been going around the community at the moment. And he hadn't been, he just forgot to press the button. But it's quite common. We've had members of the Fantasy Football Scout team, Spencer a couple of seasons ago, I remember, did that. And a few others have done that. But every cloud has a silver lining, because it means I'm now top of the league. So
disgusting.
I think he's thinking about the bad news still. Hacked, but So Andy, any more rough and the smooths from Game Week 8.
Funnily enough, we've got a few actually. I've only got 4 because there was quite a few 1-point cameos that people kept mentioning, but we want to try and focus as much as possible on the transfers people made. So I've got one from Gunnar Yank, and he said his smooth was he started Cody and Livramento, so that was good. He was very happy with that. Didn't just, luckily get him off the bench like some people. But his but his rough was that he transferred Diaz in moments before deadline as he had no City defence and figured it was a good idea, which was... You worked with what you had, and unfortunately no one was to know that Diaz was going to get benched in that game and then come on to shore up a win against Burnley. We've got Amati Party says, I finally got a green arrow, 68 -4 and up to 56k, which is lovely, 56k. Good decision. He transferred in Son and Cancelo this week, which are very good transfers in. Poor decision. He's played Sarr instead of Livramento, which is tough. Do you go with the midfield? I suppose against Liverpool though, tough, isn't it? But we've got CY Axe. He wildcarded. His rough was he had Son all the time in it and removed him after the COVID news, which a lot of people did. There's a lot of chat about whether being on Twitter does actually harm you sometimes rather than benefit you. The final wild card had both Jimenez and Armstrong, whom collectively gave me 1 point this game week, but his smooth was that Livramento to the rescue after Armstrong no-show and Salah captain. Still ended up with a tiny green arrow, which is lovely. And then the last one is from Andy Social, and he says his rough was, I love this word, he had a flaccid front line, no returns from his front 3, but his smooth was his superb defence, which got him 5 clean sheets.
Well, never mind. He can wait until next game week and try again for that one.
He can, yeah. And it happens to everybody once they get to a certain age. It's absolutely fine.
We've got a number of topics to discuss. Andy, I've got this one here. So you're going to introduce one. It says... this is what you said earlier to me. Joe, I'd love to do a bit on reliable captains. Basically want to show that Ronaldo and Lukaku are awful. So what's this about?
Yeah, basically. I mean, we've been chatting about it a lot. And in a lot of the chats I'm in for FPL and stuff, the big debate this week is whether you go for somebody with form, because Salah is in just supreme form at the moment, but he's got a tricky on paper, what is a tricky fixture against Manchester United? But then you've got somebody like Lukaku, who is not in very good form at all, but he's got the sublime fixture of Norwich at home. And we were trying to look at it and think, actually, how many reliable captains are there in the game anymore? How many people can we say, week in, week out, yes, we're going to be able to captain them and we know we're going to get a return? And although we have a lot of premiums this year in the game, I don't really feel like there's many reliable captaincy options. When we look at it, I mean... You've got to say that Salah's a reliable captaincy option. And when you look at it as well, normally when you look at fantasy, you've got to look at, the players within a team. You can have a terrible team, but you can have a good asset within that team. But what I asked Joe to look at, and he's got a little table I think he's going to bring up for us, is having a look at each team's XG over the last kind of 3 or 4 games. Okay. And just to have a look to see actually which teams are actually creating lots of chances.
Well, I can put that up now if you want. Or...
Yes, please. Thank you very much.
I just wanted I put a picture up of Lukaku being subbed off on the page. I just put it on the screen. I put it up because it's got, I don't know, Tuchel's doing some kind of shadow puppet, and the thing that I really highlighted was that Lukaku's coming off and Ross Barkley's giving him a sort of a pity clap, and I just thought, if Ross Barkley's giving you a pity clap, then maybe we shouldn't be captaining this guy. So yeah, here's some stats. This is
lovely. Clubs
XG. So yeah, XG, expected goals. I've done this last 4 game weeks, so this is up to date. These are the form attacks. So yeah, do you want to take us through it, Andy?
Yes, yeah. I'm just waiting for it to come up on the screen, so I've got to try and remember it based on what I was doing. But what I thought was, the reason I wanted to bring this up tonight was because actually you can see whether teams are performing the way you should, the way you think they are performing, and also whether they're overperforming or doing better than we think they should be doing. You can see straight away there, Liverpool top. And when I say Liverpool top, I mean they're top by quite a distance as well. Their XG is 9.21, which is comfortably, 3 more than Man United and Chelsea, and actually 4 more than Man City. And also their goals and big chances created are just so much higher than everybody else. So yes, Salah's in supreme form at the moment, but also his team around him are playing very well, which I think makes him a more reliable option. Brentford, very high up there, by the way, which I think is very, very good when you think they're going to be...
second to Liverpool.
Yeah, when you think they're going to be playing, is it Burnley, Norwich and Newcastle they've got after game week 10, which I mean is lovely fixtures for the fact that they're playing so well. But it's just worth looking at the fact that Man United, Chelsea and Man City are so much lower than Liverpool. And I feel like if you have a look as well, Man United and Chelsea, they've got about 6 for their XG, and they've only scored the 5 goals. So actually they're playing pretty much how you would expect them to be playing based on what they're creating. And because of that, I'm looking at it and thinking, are we going to be seeing any improvement moving forward? Now, with Man United, they've had some easier fixtures and they've not really taken advantage of them, whereas Chelsea have had very tricky fixtures, I would say. So Chelsea, I think with the fixtures they've got coming up, maybe we can see a bit of an uptick there. But in terms of reliability, I think, and it's something I want to put to you two as well, is this whole idea of permanently captaining Salah in the form he's in, with the stats we're seeing, with the XG they're putting up together, is that the best way to go moving forward? Because if you're having a look at it in terms of reliability, we're not seeing that from Lukaku and from Ronaldo. We might be seeing it from Vardy, but he's always been a bit of a stats buster anyway. But is it that we just stick with Salah moving forward? And obviously this week is going to be the big test of that, because the fixture maybe isn't there for Salah. I'm not buying it that it's a gorgeous fixture and they're going to absolutely annihilate United, but it could happen. Whereas Lukaku is Norwich, so I don't know, Joe. It's up to you. Do you want to go first?
No, I'll go first. Let Seb go first on this one.
Yeah.
Sure. So to answer your question, I guess if you had to perma captain someone all season, it's Salah. That's pretty straightforward. But, and I mean, it'd be interesting to find some numbers for this. I'd imagine you can outscore someone who did that by trying to optimize your returns. And hey, maybe sometimes we don't, but that's on us at being bad at optimization, not the fact of optimizing itself. I think, and you said this earlier on Twitter, I think, Andy, if you're not going to captain Lukaku against Norwich, why do you even own him? I think, yeah, Salah's brilliant. He's amazing. Just owning him this week is enough, I think. He absolutely could outscore Lukaku, but it's not the more likely outcome. Yeah, Liverpool are great. Salah's great. Chelsea don't look as good. Lukaku did score at the weekend. It was just offside. So if we want to say in form, out of form, he put the ball in the net. It was an inch offside. I don't really know what you do with that, but it sounds to me like he's not having a problem finding the goal all that much. He was very, very unlucky against Southampton. And while Salah is a better player, Norwich are very, very bad. Looking at some numbers here, I had Man United have got an XGA so far this season, 28 matches, of 11. So they're expected to concede 11 goals. And Norwich just under 15 at 14.9. Salah does outperform Lukaku in terms of XGI per 90 with 0.89, but Lukaku's at 0.74. So combining those two, Lukaku does have a better chance of returns if you look at his strengths and the opposition's weakness. And I'll just go back to what I said at the beginning. I think you could captain Salah and it would be fine. But if we played this next set of fixtures, say 10 times in a row, Lukaku would outscore Salah. You're just gambling that it's the one time that Salah outscores Lukaku.
What do you think, Joe?
I disagree. and I wouldn't say permanently captain Salah, but because I do think you should take it a week at a time. But I was on the captaincy video earlier with Tom, and statistically at the moment over the last 4, Manchester United is the worse defence than Norwich. The worst defence is actually Watford. So Watford's XG, the XG is 7, and they've conceded 8 goals. But Manchester United, the XG is 6.63, and Norwich just behind that with 6.49. And Norwich have 2 clean sheets over the last 4. Manchester United have none. At the moment, Manchester United's defence is worse than Norwich's. Norwich have done something. Well, they've done 2 things. They appear to have injected Norman with Popeye's spinach or whatever Superman has, so he is a much better player and he is protecting the back line a bit more. They've also got rid of Williams, so that was a massive weakness there. Remember, every week we were saying whoever's playing on the right against Norwich, captain, and I think we mentioned Townsend before, and even he hauled against them there. And the common factor was Paul Williams was there, so they've sorted themselves out a little bit. But it is Chelsea and it is Lukaku. What puts me off Lukaku a little bit this week for the captaincy is the comments that Tuchel's been saying about his tiredness, his fatigue, these are all of the comments that a manager makes when they're about to drop them.
Just for context on that, though, he was asked about Lukaku's goal scoring. He wasn't asked whether he was going to rest him. He was like, why hasn't he scored in the last 6? And he started coming out with like, oh, he had a big summer and he's played lots of matches. So he didn't volunteer he was going to rest him. He was trying to find a reason to answer that goal scoring question.
I'll be worried if he plays against Malmo tomorrow.
Right.
That's reasonable, but we'll know by then.
If Klopp is saying, Salah, he's really tired. He's really fatigued. He's played too much. People are questioning his form, but he's still good, and that's not happening. They're saying Salah's the world class best player in the world, and the stats are showing that Salah is performing better than he's in fact ever done. And one of the things we were looking at in the captaincy video was usually it's a huge volume of shots with Salah, and he scores a lot and assists a lot, but there's a huge volume. But here, he's actually achieving goals and assists from that huge volume. He's scoring even more. So he's topping every single metric. And he's just one of the... It may drop off, but he's at the moment in the absolute form of his life. And he plays, statistically, a worse defence.
Only over the last... You mentioned the last couple, of which Norwich have had Burnley...
last 4.
And Norwich have had Burnley and Brighton, and Man United have had Everton and Leicester. So if we normalise it for those teams' attacks, I'd imagine it doesn't show that Man United are worse. And I would make the same argument for them when you're saying Salah is statistically brilliant.
I don't have the technology to suddenly show you loads of clips of Harry Maguire at the moment. But if I did, there would be an argument to say they are worse.
Don't get me wrong, Salah's a brilliant option, and I'd imagine there's a very good chance he scores this weekend. But you mentioned his stats there, which are amazing. But the stats show that Lukaku is a better option against Norwich, who are a poorer defence, than Salah is against Man United. Realistically, maybe they both go and get braces and it all doesn't matter too much. And I'll just go back to what I said. There is definitely a world where Salah outscores Lukaku this weekend. It is just not more likely than the reverse. So that's why I'll captain Lukaku myself.
Let's have a look at...
Just very quickly, Joe, sorry, before we go on to that next bit. It's trying to take it back to that, what players are reliable captains in FPL anymore.
Yeah.
And I do genuinely think, I don't think Ronaldo and Lukaku can be put into that system, because I just feel like Chelsea play in a certain way where sometimes almost all game they almost use Lukaku as a bit of a decoy, and they kind of play around him, and he's kind of that fault from the top.
Almost like Giroud, perhaps, dare we say.
Or Morata.
Or any Chelsea striker who isn't Drogba.
I was trying to think of other teams that have ever done that, and it was always Chelsea. I kept coming back to Chelsea. But I just look at it and think Salah is the only player. If I'm looking at my whole team,
Shevchenko. I'm just thinking of all the strikers they've ruined.
Diego Costa.
Diego Costa is the only one they haven't ruined, but he ruined himself sometimes.
Yeah, he did. But I'm just looking at it and thinking, he is for me the only player I feel like I could captain and go, I know I'm most probably going to get a return, and it can be against any opposition. The only other player, I guess, that I could maybe put into that bracket is De Bruyne, and obviously he's only just come back. But I just don't think Ronaldo and Lukaku are that reliable moving forward. But then that could change moving forward, because Lukaku's going to have those nice fixtures, and he is a bit more of a bully.
I think you're completely right, but I don't think that's the question we have to answer. Like, if we could only captain one player all season, it's hands down Salah. Maybe a Harry Kane if he were playing for City or on form for Tottenham, whatever it is. Yeah. But that isn't the question we have to answer. The question we have to answer is Salah going to score more against Man United or Lukaku against Norwich? Let's assume, he's not going to get rested. We do have the rest of the week to find that out. If they both start, I think Lukaku's the better option. Then go back to Salah next week if you want.
No, I'll be on Lukaku. I 100% will be on Lukaku. It's home to Norwich. Just can't not really.
I think this is one of those weeks where you have to play the game. And the game is 7 million people transferring, making captains, making decisions. Salah is 60% owned normally? So his effective ownership is going to be well over 100%. So if you own Salah but don't captain him, every point he gets is a little notch on the red arrow. So with Lukaku, his ownership is 40 or so. He'll be very well captained. I anticipate him to be over the 100% because it's Norwich, but normally he's going to be below that. But I do think it's one of those weeks where you've got to play the game. And I do think it's really, really, really important for a week like this with two standout captains to own both of them. So myself and Andy,
I thought you were going somewhere else with that. Yeah, if you don't know,
I did as well.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair
So,
I thought he was going to go somewhere else.
but I don't think it's necessarily a week to captain Lukaku over Salah. But I do think it's the week you've got to own both of them. Now,
So when are you going to captain
Seb's
Lukaku?
waiting to go in.
So just when are you going to captain Lukaku? If not this week?
Well, I'm keeping him as a little placeholder for Harry Kane. Because Harry Kane's fixtures I don't like as much as Lukaku's. Now, Lukaku could go off. He could go absolutely mad. Chelsea will score 4, 5 against these teams. But they could all be scored by Azpilicueta and Rudiger and whoever. And I don't know if Lukaku's going to have any involvement. Whereas if I
look at Spurs, they're halfway down this table. They've created less than 5 goal scoring opportunities, XG wise, in the last 4 games, and most of that was against Newcastle. Shock horror against a poor team. Who's Lukaku got coming up?
Well, exactly.
He's got Norwich, Burnley, Newcastle.
But with Harry Kane, I'm not going to get Harry Kane in until the fixtures turn. And when I do, I will. Because the other thing I might join you in that, with Harry Kane as well. We've seen it in Europe as well. He is starting to find his shooting boots. It is starting to come together. Harry Kane and Son they've got the pedigree. They've got the they're a traditional. One of those players comes into my team come November, December time, basically.
I feel like you're arguing. So I completely agree with you. Like 12, 13, something like that. I might bring in Harry Kane as well for Lukaku. But the reason is fixtures, which is exactly what you're saying Lukaku doesn't have now.
That's why I'm getting Lukaku for fixtures. So, for example, this week I will have Lukaku and Salah, and I will captain Salah because I think Salah is the better captain option.
Is that why? Are you captaining him because you're scared about the EO, or are you captaining him?
I'm captaining him because he's currently the best player in the world against currently, apart from Watford, the worst defence on current form. That's why.
Yeah, but like,
and and his manager's not going on about how tired he is all day on Twitter. It's like, Lukaku's tired this, tired that. I don't want that. I don't want to captain a guy who's tired. I want to captain a guy who's the best player in the world.
Leicester versus, was it Leicester and Everton versus Burnley and I forget, someone else terrible. I feel like, Man United's defence is looking worse than Norwich over those few, but I think that's possibly because of opposition as well, not just as a sort of objective. They have a poorer defence than Norwich, which I don't, over the season they don't.
I think as I keep saying about you've got to play the game, and he's playing the game this week. So, for example, you've got to look at the odds. Are there strong odds of Lukaku getting a massive haul against Norwich? Yes. Are there also strong odds based on current evidence of him not? Are there strong odds of Salah getting a good strong return? Yes. Are there strong odds perhaps of him not? Well, I don't know. It's up for debate. But what I think is you've got to own both. And if you're wrong, like if I'm wrong and it's Lukaku goes off, Salah blanks, well, Lukaku's in my team. I'll captain him the next week because he's got this run of fixtures. But I don't want to mess up my team by taking away that premium price point. So I've got Ronaldo there at the moment. I don't want Ronaldo for a while, perhaps if at all, but definitely don't want him for the short term. Lukaku come in, got the fixtures, and then I will move him to Kane or Vardy.
Worth mentioning, by the way, also in terms of playing the game, how likely is it that Norwich set the stall up to defend and managed to keep out Chelsea or keep out Lukaku, and also how likely is it that United are? Like I'm not going to believe that United are going to lose 4-2 again next week. Like I don't see it happening personally. I feel like he's going to have Fred McTominay in there. We're going to be literally just playing counter-attacking football the whole game because that's what Ollie does against good teams. And I struggled. It depends. I remember Salah scored. Was it a couple of years ago? He scored that breakaway goal, didn't he, in the last minute against United when we sent the goalkeeper up and he broke again, and that was the only reason he scored that. And I just look at it and think, I don't know. For me, I'm all over Lukaku, and I know Seb agrees or thinks the same as me, but I do understand in terms of the form of Salah why you would want to go for him as well.
Yeah, I think
Andy, you tweeted, was it the last players to have played? Was it Burnley, Norwich, or whatever it was? Just players who didn't have form. Then they played those teams, and they basically all got double returns. Was it something like that?
Yeah, so Vardy only had one goal in his first 2 games, then played Burnley and Norwich and had a hatful. Decore did exactly the same. Jota played Burnley and Norwich first 2 games, got 2 goals and has not done a lot since. And there was somebody else as well. But yeah, it just goes to show they seem to be form setters. They seem to be, when you play Burnley and Norwich, especially if it's very close together, all of a sudden you're back in form. So I'm just hoping that happens with Lukaku.
I know I questioned that tweet when you put it up, particularly about Vardy, because basically when you look at Vardy's form, but he's been on it all season. We've just been ignoring him. Vardy scored against Wolves,
not from now,
and
from
before,
but
he scored against Wolves and then blanked against West Ham, and at that stage West Ham defence was slightly better than it is now. He then also scored against Brighton. This is all, and then he blanked against City, and then he got that haul against Burnley, I think it was. So he was still in form. He was still putting away goals, and basically it seemed to be just based on the fact that he blanked against City and West Ham. But he scored against everyone else.
75% of his returns this year have come against Burnley and Norwich.
But he has still scored. But you were saying that he wasn't in form, but he scored against Wolves, he scored against Brighton. Brighton defence is very good at the moment.
Yeah, I'm just saying Burnley and Norwich. That's what we're looking at, Burnley and Norwich.
One thing I'd love to put to both of you, maybe especially you, Joe, is if Salah, his stats are wonderful, but if he had scored, the last couple of goals he scored have been, Messi level goals. If he just scored a penalty or a tap-in, would we be thinking the same thing? Are we getting maybe slightly carried away by the fact that he's scoring amazing goals, but they're still just worth 5 points in FPL?
And how many points is Lukaku's goals worth? 4.
That wasn't the question.
No, I know, but who are we going to captain? This is the question, isn't it?
But if you want to go in that direction, Lukaku does get more bonus for scoring goals. So I agree with you. Salah gets more points per goal, but Lukaku will get more bonus if he scores a goal and everything else is even. So I think you could probably argue those two even themselves out, especially when we're looking at one match, right? The variance is so high.
Salah's doing riding high in the bonus this season.
Sure, but you asked about points per goals. I think bonus may even that out.
Well, they're both good options. I think we can both agree with that. Salah and Lukaku. Hey, let's put some stats up. These are expected goal involvement and also shots on target. So sharp shooters. This is last 4. Salah's top. 10 shots on target. 4 goals, 2 assists. This is what I've done is I've filtered it through the sort of players we would captain, and I've thrown Werner in there just to be cheeky. So Salah is top with 10 shots on target. And then Kane. Now this is interesting. Last 4, Kane's slowly starting to move up this table. When Kane starts moving up this table, he starts to score, and then he starts to become a captain option. Vardy still trucking along there with 6 shots on target. Expected goal involvement. He's 3rd in this list. Then you've got Ronaldo. And Ronaldo's a tease because he's got 6 shots on target. He's just behind Vardy and just ahead of Son, but I'm probably going to get rid of him. But is it going to be another Manchester United situation? I remember Ibrahimovic around this time went on this massive goal drought, really frustrating, but his stats were still quite good. And then he just came back and was just incredible. But yeah, I know you're a Manchester United fan, Andy. So am I just being nostalgic for a Manchester United striker to come back after a goal drought, or is Ronaldo basically surplus to requirements now?
Yeah, I think he is, to be honest. In terms of how much money he is, how expensive he is in this game, and compared to the other players that are doing so much better than him as well, even if you can move to almost any other player in the game from Ronaldo and be much happier. Vardy is killing it, and Vardy is somebody that I'm going to talk about a little bit later on as well, based on my differential pick, because they seem to have changed system. I mean, they change system every bloody week at the moment, but they seem to have changed system to help them out quite a lot recently. And it's got that 2 up top, and he does seem to play very well when Iheanacho's up top with him. You can move to Kane, and like you just said, Kane's kind of getting a little bit of an uptick at the moment as well. And there's just better players out there, I think. And Do I trust United and do I trust Ronaldo? No, I don't even trust him to start now. He didn't start against Everton, did he? So you look at that and think, my God, if I've got a player that, can be fit and still sometimes not even get on the pitch, we don't know whether he's on penalties. He's probably not going to be. I just think when you've got Salah, Kane, Vardy, all those other premiums, even Lukaku, we're not sure whether he's on pens yet. Having those pens is a big thing, and the others are just so nailed. Whereas Ronaldo, with fixtures that are changing recently soon as well, I think if you've got him and you're not thinking about moving off him, you're either looking at it and seeing something that I'm not seeing, or you've got complete faith in Ollie and Ronaldo, which I definitely don't. Yeah. Yeah. No. Lots of people in the chat, by the way, are saying they can't hear you, Joe. I can hear you.
Yeah, we can hear you. You didn't leave for us, so I'm not sure.
Oh, this is lovely, Seb. Should we just carry on?
No, there'll be no one.
Hey, can you hear me now?
Check.
Hey.
We can still hear you.
Yeah, they can hear me now.
They can.
Yeah.
Oh, great.
Yeah, I wasn't on mute. It was the lead had just come out the back of the mic. I'm not sure how much they missed. Basically, I was just saying Vardy and Kane are good, are really great. Lukaku is on current form, not so good, but could turn around. Good. The sense I'm getting from both of you really is good fixtures will breed form. Is that how we should be looking at Lukaku?
Basically.
Oh, we're back to Lukaku already. If I'm trying to be annoying, I would say something like form doesn't exist. I only mean in the way we talk about it. We use the word form to describe someone who is playing well in recent memory. It's not useful for predicting stuff beyond just going, that player is good. I think when we're trying to look at predicting things in fantasy football, sure, we know who are good players. It's much more important to look at things like, say, team quality they're facing and things that have proven to be predictively useful. Whereas form, if you want to be massively oversimplistic, always ends and you never know when it's starting. So I don't really see how we can use it to say what's going to happen in the future.
Okay. Andy, we had some questions from the community.
You just left that alone. Okay, move on. Fine. That's fair enough.
I'm conscious that we need to mention more community folk, and we haven't done for a while. I'll give a lovely shout out to those early birds who joined us earlier. But Andy, did I put some community questions in the notes? And hopefully we've answered them all. I just wanted to sort of go through them, see if there's any we haven't answered. You
did, my friend. First one was from Conrad. Is Salah a better captain than Lukaku? We better not go into that anymore. Dale Griffith, should we perma-captain Salah? We've spoken about that a little bit already. Yeah, just to sum it up, I would never be somebody that perma-captains someone just because it isn't very fun. That's the other side of things, just to back yourself to try and beat that perma-captain, really. Dale Griffith, Mish, why are we all ignoring Mane and spending big up top? Now, this is something that I tweeted about a couple of days ago. I think there is genuinely, apart from the fact Lukaku's got nice fixtures now, I think there is genuinely something to be said for the fact you could go Lukaku, Salah and Mane and be quite happy for quite a few weeks moving forward. The stats that back up Liverpool are gorgeous. And Mane is so low owned that when he scores, if you own him and Salah, it's going to be like 2-3 years ago, isn't it, when we all did? So I think there is something to be said for that. And if you've still got a wild card and you want to try and wild card those three in, I think you're going to be loving life.
I think it's a really good point. Mane, we know the question often is Salah or Mane. We know the answer is Salah. So maybe we then automatically discard Mane. I guess Jota, Tsimikas all helped at the beginning of the season as well to ignore him. But like you say, if you're just looking at premium slots, he's arguably in the top couple, right? Better than Lukaku and Ronaldo, maybe based on current, to use that word, form. So yeah, I kind of agree with you.
Well, Andy, you and I can do this. I don't know if you've got 2 transfers left. Do you have 2 transfers?
No, just one.
Just
used
one.
2 last week.
But nevertheless, you could do it for a hit, or you could do it over 2 weeks. I've got 2 transfers. We both got Ronaldo. We could both get a cheaper striker. We could both upgrade one of our midfielders to Mane. It can be done.
Yeah.
Would you maybe just wait a couple of weeks? I guess maybe hence Andy's wildcard question, because they've got United away, Brighton home, West Ham away, Arsenal home. For Salah, we think no problem. Is that worth doubling up for 25 odd million budget? Should you maybe wait for Southampton, Everton, Wolves, Villa, Newcastle, and so on?
Yeah. Also, it might get tricky as well, because when we start getting in the Christmas period, we're going to be starting to think about AFCON as well, aren't we? I guess.
Yeah,
We've got both of them in.
Yeah, you can't perma-captain Salah. You can't, because he's not going to be here for at least a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
I don't know which side you're on, Joe. Make your mind up.
No. My mind is yogic. I'm flexible with it, and it's I don't know, but I want as much flexibility. Who is the best captain this week, Salah or Lukaku? Just own both. Definitely own both.
Yeah, fair. Yeah,
and then keep that going. If Lukaku emerges as a much better captain for the next few weeks, captain him, and then you've got Salah, but keep an open mind about getting Vardy and Kane. Even an open mind about getting Salah and Mane in. I'd still not going to see. I still don't think many people will do that because of the attraction of getting, at least one of these heavy hitter strikers in, and it's difficult.
Would you consider De Bruyne if we're thinking of midfield premiums, or is he too far down your list?
It's just for me, no. It's just in terms of, basically it's points. Who's going to get me lots and lots of goals, lots and lots of assists? Well, De Bruyne, last 4 shots on target, just 2. And we can see, he looks great. He will get goals, but he won't get as many as, say, Salah or Kane or Son. These are goal scorers.
Yeah, just about to mention Son. He's 2 million cheaper, and we haven't even spoken about him yet.
Yeah.
Last question, by the way, is from Footy Man Dad and last week's Scout host Praz, saying, ignore Lukaku and bring in Kane or Vardy instead, which I think we've touched on a little bit anyway.
If I wasn't playing a game, if there wasn't millions of other people playing it, I would be tempted to do that. I'd want to bring Kane in at some point. Why don't I just get him in? I think he will match Lukaku even with tougher fixtures. I think there's a very strong chance of that. But we're playing a game, and all of our ranks on the screen. They're all like ticking along nicely. We can go up for a really high finish. We can slip down as well. But I want to sort of maintain this level and then push on for the weeks to push on. But betting against Salah and Lukaku is not the way I want to do it.
Just on Kane and Son, I wonder if, for me at least, Son is attractive, but I would probably go for Kane out of the 2 of them as the better option. And I can do that, as you've said, Joe, for Lukaku in a few weeks' time. So that's where I maybe would go. Even though so far, clearly, owning Son was a smart thing to do.
Yeah, definitely. Well, Son, midfield. Shall we move on to midfielders? So this is a situation that I've got and other people have probably got as well. So I've got Greenwood, I've got Jota, I've got Sarr, I haven't got Rafinha, I haven't got Mbomo, I haven't got all sorts of other players that I might want in midfield. Basically, it's time to shake it up a bit and to use some transfers to get some different midfielders in, especially if you haven't, like me, you haven't got Rafinha. So, I mean, I've got a picture here of Rafinha, just his back, just showing his back and his name. Because I've been looking at this over the last few weeks with the goal underneath it. And he's so highly owned, but it's one of those ones where ownership is totally justified. He's so good. And, he's now good for his country as well. So, everyone's said it, haven't they? He's underpriced, and it's just obvious he's massively underpriced this season. I don't have him, and that is something I will correct this week. But who do I remove? I don't know. And other people will have different issues in midfield going on. And also, they might want to get Son in. So we had some questions from the community about midfielders. So Nameless, is it time to sell Sarr and prioritise having a good defence? Also looking at other midfielders. Bossman, Tony or Mbomo? Matt, best Jota replacements. Dunas, is it worth holding Jota? So you can see the theme here. People, they're getting impatient, and I don't mean that in a negative way. They're perhaps justifiably getting impatient with some of their midfielders. And sociologists, Salah looks to be the only midfielder worth getting. But who will be the next hot properties in midfield to join him in the point? So before I put some stats up, I'll ask both of you two. So this is a good question from sociologists. Who will be the next hot property in midfield? Seb, who will be the next hot property in midfield?
I mean, out of the ones we've mentioned there, Mbomo for me. He's been ridiculously unfortunate not to do better so far. Brentford look great and their fixtures get very good. And to answer another question there, Tony or Mbomo, I'd try both if you could in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, definitely. And Andy, for you?
Yeah, so I mean, I completely agree with Mbumo. I think he's going to be great moving forward if he stops hitting the post. But also for me, and it's somebody that is going to come out of the wilderness, I think, is Mason Mount. I feel like he isn't playing at the moment because he's been talking about him being maybe a little tired too. Eventually he will play and start supplying Lukaku, and the fixtures are lovely moving forward. So I feel like he's somebody that is going to be in very little teams, but actually I feel like he's going to do quite well moving forward.
When I was looking at the per 90 numbers earlier for Lukaku, he's right up there as well. Obviously doesn't have the minutes yet, as you say, but if he does start getting them, and he was pretty much one of their most nailed players last year, we know he can return. When
I looked before this week, based on the 4 games he's played this year, he has the highest XA.
Nice. Yeah. And the thing I kind of like about him is, which could be frustrating, I guess, from an FPL sense, is he tends to just tick along, a bit like the old David Silva. He would never go and get 18 points in a week, so no one ever rushed to him. You could kind of quietly have him for a few weeks and build your rank, a bit like maybe people have been doing with Vardy.
And he's nice to have with Lukaku as well. It's a nice little double up.
I've got some stats here we'll put up. I've called it cheap midfield stats. This is midfielders under 8 million. So mid-price as well. Best XG the last 4. Sarr is top. So while Watford have been bad, Sarr has still been good. Obviously, it's evident he's not getting the service. It's evident he hasn't got anyone to service. That sounds a bit rude, but he hasn't got anyone to give.
Easy, granddad.
Yeah. So Mbomo is second. So Sarr I think is still worth hanging on to. He has Everton up next. His fixtures do stiffen, but I do think he's a good player to keep. But I wouldn't be getting.
Yeah, I'm laughing as well.
Thanks, mate. I'm glad it wasn't just me.
Yeah, no, that was deliberate. Mbomo second, and then Townsend still there, still trucking along. So I think whilst Calvert-Lewin and Richarlison aren't in the picture, he's still an option because he's on penalties and he's against Watford. Tielemans is there, and I think we're going to be speaking a bit about him later. Jota is still there. If he plays, he should get some returns. And this is interesting. Bowen at West Ham. So everyone's going, oh, Antonio, keep him. And, what about Ben Rama still? But, quietly, Bowen has been getting attacking returns every week and is, in terms of expected goal involvement, the man to get in midfield, certainly.
When we looked at the numbers in only the first couple of weeks or so, when we were looking at Ben Rama, Bowen was outperforming the other midfielders at West Ham, just not getting the returns. Kind of nice to see him actually turning that into returns now.
There's Bernardo Silva. So my friend David, who got his almost wild cards, he got Silva in for good reason. He's expected to be quite involved. So he's a regular starter, integral to the way City plays. I don't think you're going to worry too much about rotation with him. And he is involved. Only 7 million. Rafinha is there. I expect that to get better. He's actually been largely absent, I guess, from a lot of their good fixtures. Because he's either been coming off at 60 minutes because he was still coming back from injury, and of course he didn't play because he was on international duty last time around. So I don't think we've quite seen the true Rafinha yet. So if Bamford's back as well, I mean, yeah, Seb, as a Leeds fan, do you feel we haven't quite seen the real Leeds yet?
Yeah, I mean, I think you've covered it nicely. The real Leeds, maybe we're poor. People have seen that. We know that. We miss a lot of players at the moment from last week. But I think you mentioned earlier, Joe, a bit like Ismail Sarr maybe. The team don't necessarily have to be the best to have a very good FPL option. And I think that's what Rafinha is. He has decent fixtures. If he starts getting the 90 minutes, which he should, he looked brilliant for Brazil. I have him in my team and he won't be leaving.
Fornals is there, still chucking along. And Zaha was absent with injury, but he was a player I got in on the last wildcard for Alex's team, our community team we're running, which we're going to look at a bit later. But I put him in as a sort of fourth midfielder punt. Hasn't worked out yet because he hasn't actually taken to the field really. But he is there. He is capable of being involved in goals. So people who aren't there, say Greenwood. I've got Greenwood. I think Greenwood to Rafinha is the most obvious move for me. If you own Greenwood, I think it's time to move on because in Manchester United's fixtures. But if you've got Jota and Sarr and you want to move them on to perhaps one of these other players here, I don't know. If I'm tempted to keep for a little bit.
Can I speak?
Yeah.
Could I go?
Yeah, your turn.
Yeah, because I want to talk about those players actually. Because
good.
I own Ismail Sarr and I own Diogo Jota. And for me, I think Sarr is a firm hold still. I think he's playing out of position now. He's playing up top since Ranieri's come in. He had shots against Liverpool as well. He genuinely had shots against them. One of them was quite a good save from Kelleher, I think it was in goal, wasn't it?
Did he hit the woodwork? Do I remember seeing something?
Yeah, I think he hit the post as well. And I look at it and think they're still going to be playing counter-attacking football at times, and he's the pasty player, so he's going to be getting returns, I think. But also maybe aside a bit of caution there because he played Norwich, which is probably why he's got some good stats behind him. But Jota, I still refuse to believe he's not the best value pick. 7.5 million when he could be playing up front for Liverpool. Firmino played midweek, didn't he? He's played tonight. And I just refuse to believe Jota's now not going to be getting game time. For 7.5 million, I'm benching him this week. But I could easily, if I think there's any chance he's going to be playing, I could easily put him in. So I'm worried that people are going to be jumping between a lot of these mid-price mids, and I don't know whether that's the best play. I feel like actually, I've got Sarr, I've got Jota, I'm holding them both for a little bit and seeing what's going to happen. But someone like Rafinha, it's going to be tempting to get him in very soon, but I've already got Mbumo as well. So I feel like jumping between them all is probably not the best move. I would try and get one in and keep them for at least 4, 5, 6
I'd like to hear from any Liverpool fans, perhaps in the chat or on Twitter later, is now Klopp is a huge football romantic, and we've seen it before in, say, the Merseyside derby. He will give players who perhaps haven't experienced the Merseyside derby a go at it. So suddenly we've seen the team sheet and go, what are they doing? What's Origi doing there? But he wants to do that. Now I can't remember Jota's involvement against Manchester United. I don't know whether he might just give him that game anyway. But I can't. It just suddenly occurred to me now that I'm not aware of Jota playing in this game. It's probably just erased it from my mind. But I just wonder if it could be the sort of game Klopp will do. It's just that's the kind of thing he does though. He gives some random players a chance because they've yet to experience the great Liverpool-Manchester United game or the Merseyside derby. I don't know. Maybe one of those things. I'm conscious of time now. Seb has to run off at 9, and so I'm going to hop over the goals imminent table. We'll come back to that in a bit. And you have got some overachievers and underachievers to talk about very quickly before you go, and I'll do the overachievers first. So I'll get that table up on the screen so you can these are over. Decore's top, by the way, and he's injured, just so people don't know. He's injured for about 7 weeks.
Yeah, he's had his foot, hasn't he? Thank you for jumping over to this. So we've seen this a few times earlier in the season. We're now 8 weeks in, so it's probably starting to look a little more useful to us. It'll keep developing as we go, and your goals imminent table is a great example of a shorter term version of this. I believe we've got, say, the top 10 or so here. Decore, as you mentioned, is top, but we don't know about him anymore. Pogba's there, but he's been there all season because of his early performance. Salah, Vardy, Jesus are near the top there as well. I think Salah is a really good example, and you mentioned earlier, Andy, Vardy, of players that do put up good stats, but then will exceed them as well because they are very good finishers and they play for good teams who will convert the chances they create in Salah's example. So he maybe isn't overperforming, as the title suggests, but then maybe your Ben Rama, even your Greenwood, we know he's a good finisher, but as you've said, Joe, maybe you want to lose him. Townsend may be an interesting one for me to keep an eye on. I'd like to know what you two think about the players on that list.
Well, yeah, I think that backs up what Greenwood is overachieving, and I look at those goals, and Ronaldo's where he should be, and Greenwood. I mean, well, his goal was classic. It was just outside the box, wasn't it? It was quite similar to Tielemans' goal, I think. And it was. Basically, you're not going to. I want my strikers to be like really near the goal, really close to it, and shooting loads and loads. And Mason Greenwood's not there. Ben Rama as well. As we've seen, Bowen is the guy. He's on set pieces. He's the guy. If you want FPL points from a West Ham midfielder, it's Bowen, not Ben Rama. I think, but yeah.
Yeah, Vardy for me as well. Like we just mentioned, he's got the stats there, and actually, I think they've changed formation to really benefit this team. They've got that Samar they're playing, isn't it, with Tielemans and Maddison. Maddison's obviously coming back now, and all of a sudden they're starting to create an awful lot of chances. And Iheanacho, I think, is somebody that's going to go very, he's going under the radar quite a lot. And I feel like when he plays, he returns. Like, I think he's now played 3 games in a row and he's returned in each one, something like that. So when he plays, he returns. And I think that he only helps Vardy too. So, I feel like those Leicester teams probably going to be quite slept on.
Yeah, it still is. And do you want me to move on to underachievers, Seb?
Yeah, please. Thank you very much.
Okay, these are the underachievers.
So
Traore's top.
Of course he is. He'll be there for a while, I'd imagine. Yeah. Similar again to overperformers. We've had a few weeks now, so it's looking a bit more reliable. These are players who have put up the XG, XA to get a certain number of returns, but have underperformed that so far. So Traore is the poster boy of this. We know he's got those good stats and can't quite convert them so far. Mbeumo is 4th in the list here, and Mason Mount as well for you, Andy. I think those two we've mentioned already plenty, but this just backs up that Mbeumo so far has been incredibly unfortunate. And I think we can say it's unfortunate when he's hitting the post 6 times. And Mason Mount as well looks like he does have the potential to even improve per 90 when he's playing. Anyone jump out to you two on there? Your favourite Chris Wood is on there.
What's the difference, by the way, between Traore being a troll and Mbeumo being great value moving forward?
Honestly, narrative and perception, I would argue.
Yeah.
I think when we're maybe watching the teams as well, you're maybe seeing Brentford, who look extremely solid as an outfit, arguably more so than Wolves, and they have better fixtures than Wolves. And without checking, I'm guessing Traore's misses, if you want to quantify it in that way, have been further away than Mbeumo, say, hitting the post a few times. I think Mbeumo might actually still have returned.
I thought you meant his wife there for a minute.
Yeah, I did.
Traore's misses.
That is fair enough. I think Mbeumo might have more returns. He does as well than Traore so far. So obviously what we see here is underperformers, but you might still be returning. You just would be expected to return more.
Yeah.
I'm going to give a plug to the Meet the Manager. We've got a Meet the Manager video coming out tomorrow. I've recorded that on Monday. It's with a ex-pro footballer who is also really good at Fantasy Premier League. Lots of top finishes. And we were talking about Mbeumo and we were talking about Traore. And he was talking about, from a footballer's point of view, the lack of efficiency in both. He sees hitting the woodwork lots of times on the outside, not hitting the woodwork so it goes in, hit as inefficient. And it's the same with Traore. He's looking at Traore and his final end product. And so I'm not even going to go near that cliche of Mbeumo being a trap, because he's just a player that I think I will want to get in, but he does quite frequently miss the goal. Woodwork is a miss. A miss is a miss. A miss is a miss.
And just very quickly as well, right down the bottom of that list, Cancelo. For the fact that a defender's on this list, like if you don't have Cancelo already, like I brought him in this week, and he is so much fun to watch because he's so far forward all the time.
He scored tonight in the Champions League.
Yeah, he did.
And I literally extended this list to 12 to get Cancelo in.
Yeah,
because exactly like you say, a bit like Son. I look at Cancelo and I think, you'd have to go back and watch Scoutcast from last year, but I remember talking about Cancelo a lot and really loving him. And I'd looked at starting this season with him, and then we weren't sure maybe Zinchenko had that spot because of how last season ended. I'm kind of a bit annoyed with myself because, I know this is massive hindsight, but I think he's top of defenders. He's played pretty much every minute of every match. It was clearly there to be taken, and I did not take it.
Yeah, it was 2 weeks ago, I think I got him in. I got him in for his blank, and then he finally got me a clean sheet. But he was the top player for me to target. It's just a glue player. Put him in. He's going to play a lot. He's going to get attacking returns. He's going to get me clean sheet. He's fantastic value. What's he now? 6.3. So yeah, he's gone up. People have noticed. Annoyingly. I just want to just bring in a couple of people in the chat. Tartan Gaming. This is a great day. He's ahead of all of us apparently. So this is brilliant. Well done, Tartan Gaming. Well done.
You and 200,000 other very good FPL man.
Yeah, there's lots
really
of
very, very good.
Well,
FPL
if you look at the scores, there's 217,111 people who are better than me at the moment. So yeah, they're not all in the chat. I wish they were. That would be good. Yeah, Seb, did you need to head off now? Do we need to?
Yes, if that's okay.
That's absolutely fine. That's absolutely fine. We have the technology, I think.
I did leave my differential with you. If you have that.
Oh. Yeah, okay. Okay, we just say it now then.
Okay, sure. Timo Werner.
Okay, why?
And his face. He's
God.
He's 2.2% owned. He has better stats than Lukaku. If you want a differential to target those fixtures, by definition, Timo Werner. And he might be affordable alongside a Mane or something like that. Yeah,
he is in there. Shots on target 5, last 4. Expected goal involvement 2.26. That is a far better than Lukaku. 5 times as many shots on target than Lukaku. I completely agree with this.
I think the takeaway here is captain Timo Werner. I think that's the takeaway.
That is the takeaway.
Part of? Don't drop that and then go, Seb.
I'll leave you to rip that apart.
Disgusting.
Okay. Right. Hopefully the technology should work. See you soon.
Bye, mate.
Okay. Rightio. I'm going to... Hopefully this will work. No, hasn't worked. Let's try... Let's try this one. Okay. Hey! Except we moved you around a bit. So we moved you around a bit. So what I was hoping for was that you would appear where you're supposed to, and as Seb's, the box saying Fantasy Football Scout would appear there. So that's not the case. So everyone will just have to pretend at the moment. And I'll try, if we're talking for a long time over the slides, I'll move you around. So cool. Make it a bit better. I just want to go back to the goals imminent table. So yes, this backs up a lot of what Seb was just talking about. Annoyingly, Cristiano Ronaldo's top of it, and I keep going on about that Ibrahimovic. He was top of this as well, and I think I remember we're on the Scoutcast with Granville and Mark, and I think I actually altered some of the metrics. So I kept thinking it was wrong. Why is Ibrahimovic not scoring? And it was really annoying. But I'm not going to touch it this time. It's just what will be, will be. Ronaldo is top of this. He is due to score, apparently. Yeah. Elyounoussi at Southampton. What do you reckon about him? No one's talking about him. Everyone's talking about Mbomo or Rafinha. What about Elyounoussi at Southampton? 5.5. That's a bargain.
Is he 100%? Going to be playing every game. I've looked at him once or twice, and I just don't know whether he's definitely in their starting 11 all the time.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I've got Armstrong in from Southampton, and he's dropped. So what do I know about Southampton? Yeah, I mean, I think they've got good fixtures. An interesting punt, I think. There, Norman for Norwich. I was talking about him earlier. It's defensive, but he's really moving up the pitch. He appears to have a goal in him coming. 10 goal attempts. 4 on target.
I know people raise their eyebrows a bit because I think Magnus Carlsen put him in his wildcard team a couple of weeks ago. And I think, he's got some stats behind him, which is fair play to him. I don't think I'd be wanting to get in a Norwich midfielder personally. Yeah,
no. Kane is there. This is good. I like to see Kane on this because there's 2 ways off this table. Score or don't score and don't look like you're going to score. And he's either on it and then gets off it by scoring. He doesn't get off it by just suddenly dropping off. Because he's got penalties in his locker as well. But Bowen is there. So Bowen's had 13 goal attempts, just 1 goal, 10 shots inside the box. I keep going on about Bowen. I should be getting Bowen in. This is one of those things where,
like him.
You remember last month I was going Townsend in. Could be on penalties for Everton. I didn't obviously do that, and he's gone on to be a fantastic asset the last few weeks.
Yeah. You talk about West Ham as well. You skipped over him, but Antonio as well. Like, I know he's not got the returns we wanted in the last two, but actually still getting all the chances. And he's got Spurs up next, isn't it? Who do like conceding goals. So if you've got him, I don't think this week is the week to sell him.
No, definitely. Good point, that. 13 goal attempts, 11 inside the box. He's exactly where you want Antonio to be. Just 3 on target, though, so he needs to sharpen that up. And Werner's there against Norwich. He's playing Norwich. It keeps... I know we go back to our Salah Lukaku chat earlier, but Werner's surely the one to get for Chelsea.
He could have 20, 30 goal attempts. It's still, unfortunately, he's just that player for me where until I've seen that he has started to convert his chances for 3, 4, 5, maybe even 6 games, I won't be invested in, because he's just going to be so frustrating to own. I mean, saying that, he's probably going to start up front instead of Lukaku this week now, isn't he? But
yeah. Very frustrating. Let's move on to look at the next 4 fixtures.
Lovely.
I think I'm just going to keep where you are with Seb's name on it, because
someone mentioned, but I can't remember who it was now. Someone mentioned my rank increase. It was lovely.
Well, let's see if we can. I'll give you a go again. Let's see if we can move you down.
Don't worry.
I'll do it now, because I think we might keep this up for a little while. Can't have you having a higher rank.
No, cheers.
There we
next
go.
Week, it's fine.
Oh, there we go. And there we go. We got you there. So we're going to be on this slide for a little while, so it's probably worth doing. Southampton are top. So when I mentioned earlier, you see, we now have, is it Broha? Could be permanently coming in for Armstrong. Livramento, fantastic value. Next 4, Burnley, Watford, Villa and Norwich, really good. Top of the tree here. Then Brentford, their fixtures, I mean, I would say Leicester's tough, but nevertheless, they've got Burnley, Norwich and Newcastle. I mean, that don't get better than that. And guess what? That's what Chelsea have got as well. Norwich, Newcastle, Burnley and Leicester. They've all got dovetails quite nicely. Must be a West London thing. Leeds still chucking along. This is why I want Rafinha. I do not want to go Rafinha-less while they play Wolves, Norwich. Leicester tough. Tottenham's defence is in tatters. And then Crystal Palace. So I still think the likes of Gallagher, Zaha,
Olise starting to come through.
Yeah, I think there is a very good merit in going for differentials at Crystal Palace. Burnley, this is Chris Wood time. He was on the Underachievers, Seb's Underachievers pile. So and then further down, Manchester United. This is why we're thinking of getting rid of Ronaldo and Greenwood. Liverpool, Tottenham, City. That's pretty bad. I don't know. Tottenham isn't. I suspect. I mean, there's attacking returns there, and then Watford. So it's a bit mixed. A bit unfair for them to be so low. Brighton's fixtures not so good. So I don't have Brighton defence. So at last I might actually get some rank increase this time. Liverpool. I don't know. Are Liverpool rotation, not rotation proof, are they sort of fixture proof? Manchester
I think Trent and Salah are.
Yeah.
This
is why I'm not. Tottenham are down here as well. They've got West Ham, Manchester United, Everton, and then Leeds. It's game week 12 against Leeds, where it's sort of Kane time. It can be very popular, Kane and Son. But those fixtures, I think if you get in early, if you've got room to go in early, I don't think West Ham's too.
I think those fixtures have goals in them.
Yeah, I think they've got goals.
West Ham aren't great with conceding goals. I know they've kept the clean sheet this week. Man United, obviously, we've seen aren't anyway. Everton definitely aren't. And Leeds 100% aren't. So, I don't think they're that bad. I mean, you wouldn't be targeting Spurs defenders anyway. But I think, if you want to jump on Kane and Son early, then fair enough. But I think, like you've just mentioned, 3 weeks of Lukaku and then game week 12 moving to Kane could be the way to go.
It just looks so easy and obvious for those that have Ronaldo. If you've already got Lukaku, you just keep him for that run and then hop off. If you want to.
Worth mentioning, by the way, Southampton right at the top there. Livramento, he's looked so good. He's the perfect first player to have on your bench. But I just feel like because a lot of us I'm playing 4 at the black every week now. I've got Rudiger, Christensen, TAA and Cancelo. I've looked at my team this week and I've toyed with playing 5 at the back and getting Livramento in there because I feel like a lot of people are missing out on his points because they're having him on the bench.
I accidentally played 5 at the back this week on account of subs, and it was the best week I've had for ages.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
There we go. Luckily, I don't have such a good defence. So I've got Christensen, who may play, may not play.
Yeah.
So I've got Christensen, Cancelo and Alexander-Arnold. And so Livramento, we'll come to our teams later, but I'm actually probably going to play him because I've got Cody as well. So my defence isn't as good as that, which means Livramento is actually very, very playable. He's not first sub for me. He's actually a bit like with Souček a while ago. There's some people mentioning Souček in the chat. Last season, I didn't get off to the best start, but one thing that did go right was that I manufactured a team where I had to basically play Souček every week, and that was when he kept scoring. So I got his points by virtue of the rest of my team being rubbish. So and I think I may have that with Livramento. So it may pay to be rubbish. Well, anyway, this is something I've been hoping for some time now in FPL. Let's have a look at our differentials then. So Seb's given his differential, and what about you? Who is it?
Yeah, so my differential, he is on the cusp of being allowed to be a differential because he is 5% owned, but my differential is Tielemans. So he is somebody I think that is ticked along quite nicely for a few seasons now. Everybody knows he is a very, very good player. But he's never been that kind of player where you're looking at him and thinking he's getting in the box a lot, he's having the shots, and someone that's maybe always fantasy relevant. But I feel like things have changed a little bit at Leicester. I feel like they're playing that Samir in that defensive mid place, and he's such a good player that I feel like Tielemans is getting forward now and creating an awful lot of chances. We saw on the table earlier that he's created 13 chances in the last 4 games.
I'll put that table back up while you're talking then.
Yes, please. Yeah, that'd be lovely, actually. He tore United to shreds. He scored a goal, got an assist, and he had another shot that just got tipped onto the bar as well. I feel like you could do a lot worse than somebody like Tielemans, personally. I mean, the fixtures aren't amazing moving forwards, but then it's Brentford, Arsenal, Leeds. Arsenal and Leeds in particular do concede goals. So I'm looking at it and thinking you can do worse. Yes, he is unfashionable, as Joe would probably say, because he's not Mbumo, he's not Rafinha, he's not somebody like that. But I feel like there is merit to having him in our teams this year, and I feel like he's somebody that could do quite well moving forward.
Yeah, no, I like that. So looking down my list, so what I've gone for my differential. So last week I did Adam Armstrong, who appears to have lost his place in Southampton for those great fixtures. Let's put those fixtures back up again. So yeah, Southampton top there. Burnley. I thought, oh great, I'll get Southampton's main striker in for Burnley, Watford, Villa, Norwich, and it was of course Leeds. It's Broha, who is 0.7% owned. He scored on international duty. The manager has come out saying that he wasn't sure whether he would play 90. He now feels he's convinced he can. He looked great with Redmond. He was 5 shots, 2 on target last game week, which was very good. They're very good stats for anyone, but let alone a massively cheap striker. So I do think he is a great differential now, and I think one of the essences of a differential is that it comes with a risk. So I was confident with Armstrong last week, dropped. Broha, I'm confident this week, could be dropped again. I don't know. This is the risk people take, and that's why he's 0.7% owned and a differential. But I would hope he's going to start. You're taking a risk. You're throwing the dice and hoping he starts. But I think he's certainly got the fixtures. He's got the immediate form. He appears to have the trust of his manager. And I think even if he doesn't start, I'm fairly certain he's going to come on. The talk seems to be that it's him.
Yeah, and nice fixtures.
Yeah. Let's have a look at the community team. This is Alex's team. So Alex is a community member who's top 100 finish under his belt, taking a break for health reasons this season. So decided to take his team on and manage it for him and hopefully not ruin it. We had a green arrow, so we were struggling a bit, and we wildcarded a couple of weeks ago. So we've gone up. We were in danger of slipping out the top million, but now we're back up to 671k. So on the march, 60 points and a green arrow. We have 2 free transfers as well, and I'm looking at it, and I guess injuries may make us decide, but with Ramsdale in goal, with Rudiger, Cancelo and Alexander-Arnold, Livramento and Christensen on the bench, we have a great defence. I think we can cover any no-shows. We've got Salah, agreed. We've got Rafinha, we have Zaha and Saka, and these are the 2. Injuries might dictate that we move one of those on to Mbeumo or Tielemans even. I like the idea. Zaha's in that spot, which is a differential. So you mentioned a midfield differential, similar price.
I did. I think I'd still go for Mbeumo just to have that double up with Tony personally. But obviously we need to know what's happening with Saka and Zaha, because do you say you got 2 free transfers? We've
got 2 free transfers, and it is a good team. This is a good freshly wildcarded team.
Don't think you'd need to use both, would you?
No.
I think just get rid of one of those midfielders, and then, because like I said, the bench is pretty good. Yeah,
the bench is good. We've got Foster there as well, and we've got Tony, Antonio, and Lukaku up front. So I think in terms of the transfer, the only one I can think of is if one of Zaha or Saka is injured, we could go for Mbeumo. I think, as you said, would be the sensible play, and it gives us a bit of money there to play with. The only other thing is back to the start: Salah or Lukaku for the captaincy. So I've got it on Salah in the meantime, but obviously that's just a bus team. You say Lukaku.
I would say Lukaku. Yeah.
And we'll put it to a vote on our Twitter thread, and I'm fairly certain Seb will also say Lukaku. So I think we'll have to change it to Lukaku, because in the spirit of the way we're running it, 2-1 for Lukaku captain has to be, and I'm sure other people in the chat and on Twitter will agree with us there. So I'll be on my own with Salah. Apart from 3 million other people captaining him. Let's move on to our teams. So I'll go first. This is me next week. Loads of red. So I've got 2 free transfers, everyone. So it's not going to be like this. So hopefully I'll remember, because we have a deadline on Friday. It's Friday evening match. So I've got Raya in goal. Very happy. I'm happy with that. Christensen, Alexander-Arnold, Cancelo, Livramento. I'm going for 4-4-2. I've got Salah, Sarr, Jota, Greenwood, Antonio and Ronaldo, and on my bench I've got Armstrong, because I think I'm not confident he'll play. I think he's in danger of getting 1 point coming on last 10 minutes. I don't want that. And this is a great fixture. This is Burnley's attack is not great at the moment. Livramento's in great form. I think he's earned his place. I've got Cody and Sissoko, so I've got points to come off the bench, maybe only 2 each for them, but nevertheless there are points there. So I'm going to remove Ronaldo for Lukaku, and I'm going to remove Greenwood for Rafinha.
Nice.
And sort of hope for the best with Jota and Sarr in those tricky-ish on paper fixtures there. I say tricky for Jota, same as Salah fixture obviously, but it's more will he, won't he start? I wonder if he will, because Firmino started for Liverpool tonight against Atletico. That makes me think that Jota, it could be his turn. I don't know, but worth a go. But anyway, I've got Armstrong's 1 point first sub come in. Let's have a look at your team. Do you want to take us through it and who you're captaining? It says Ronaldo at the moment, but presumably he's a placeholder for Lukaku.
He is, yeah. So for anybody that's listening on the podcast, so I've got Sat in goal, I've got Christensen, Cancelo, Rudiger and Alexander-Arnold at the back, so I'm very happy with my back five. Salah, Saka, who I'm hoping will play, but obviously got kicked quite heavily, didn't he, by McCarthy?
Oh, Jesus, I saw that. It was like Cantona. It's one at Crystal Palace.
I've got Mbumo in there, who I brought in last week, so I'm happy to have him. And Salah as well, who against Everton away, I think could do something. So I'm quite happy to have him as well. And then Ronaldo and Antonio. Ronaldo is a placeholder for Lukaku. I will definitely be bringing Lukaku in as long as Lukaku is, gets through the midweek absolutely fine. And then I've got Livramento first on my bench because he could come in if Saka isn't playing, or if Rudiger ends up not playing, or Christensen. I'm happy to have that. And then I've got Jota on my bench at the moment as well. He's somebody that I think I'd probably end up playing him if it's confirmed he's in. But I feel like he's the kind of player that he might come on and just score a goal, and get only 1 point. So I'm quite happy benching him at the moment, just to keep hold of him and see how he gets on moving forward. So yeah, I'm fairly happy with this team, especially once Lukaku comes in. I feel like that triple up of Chelsea and having that Cancelo in there as well, I feel okay about it.
I think that's a really good point you raised there about benching him, because I'm going to play him, but I could bench him. But it's crucial, keep him in, because he's a player you might want, and he's certainly a price point. So I've seen lots of people with, say for example, the midfield that you've got there to play. So pretend Jota's not there, but you've got a lot of people. They've got Salah, and then they've got Saka, Mbomo, Sarr, and Rafinha, for example. So their next most expensive midfielder, from Salah is about 6.5 million. So what happens if Mason Mount starts forming an amazing partnership with Lukaku, which could happen? What happens if Foden becomes totally essential? What happens? What happens if you want? Now, I've been thinking about Rashford when Manchester United's fixtures get better. And I'm thinking, what do I want from my Manchester United there? Do I want Ronaldo then when their fixtures turn? And I think Rashford could be the answer. But I'm going to need to upgrade Jota to there. So that's 2 million, an extra 2 million. But that's difficult but doable. An extra 3 or 4 million, that's surgery time. So
also, I just don't want to give myself too many headaches. If I change Jota for someone like Rafinha this week, who the hell am I going to play Rafinha instead of? Like, I could already play Livramento this week, and if I then bring Rafinha in, do I drop who do I drop for him? Like, do I drop Saar, but he could get something? Do I drop Mbumo? Do I drop Saka if he's not fit? And I don't want to give myself that many headaches yet, because I feel like trying to keep your choices down to a minimum in FPL is probably a good idea.
Yeah, I mean, I think looking at this team here, Ronaldo to Lukaku, that's it. I mean, you would not want to touch that. And we're seeing increasingly with teams that have wildcarded, like we did a few weeks ago, or have just wildcarded, their defences are great. So, I mean, even my defence has, it doesn't have, say, Rudiger, for example. It's still got these key players, Alexander-Arnold, Cancelo, and a Chelsea defender, and Livramento, absolute great. I mean, your team is arguably Livramento could start there, but I mean, he's a great first sub. I mean, it's a really good team for this week, I think.
Hopefully, fingers crossed.
Yeah. For completeness, even though Seb isn't here, I'll put his team up here. Once again, obviously you are now in Seb's place because the way that the video conferencing tool went, just the way it is. But yeah, he's going into this team with Sanchez in goal, in a 3-4-3 with Rudiger, Cancelo, Alexander-Arnold, Salah with the captaincy. Judging from what he was saying tonight, I think that's going to be Lukaku. Foden, Rafinha, Mbomo, Lukaku, Antonio, Jimenez, and he's once again got Livramento, another with Livramento first sub, Brownhill and Williams there. So that's looking a good team. I'm not quite sure what transfer he didn't mention the transfer that he's going to make. I'm sure he will on Twitter later in the week, but there's not much I would change with that. I can't think I can't think what transfer he might make unless
I'd probably roll that, to be honest,
unless he really doesn't like to see Williams there and wants another cheaper defender. But if he's got, I would probably, I think he'd be rolling that surely.
I think so.
That's good. Thanks so much for everyone who has joined us. The eagle-eyed people notice that it says Seb there. It's in fact Andy. Seb has left us for about half an hour ago because he had other things to do. But we managed to get his over and underachieving graphs in there. Hopefully that was a great help. And we've all been going through our differentials. I managed to embarrass my friend David with his lack of wild cards, and so on. Just a reminder, all of the stats that we've had from the members area, we've had the season ticker as well. There are all the gadgets and the tools going on there in the members area. Do sign up for membership. Do have a look at the site. We've got all the details on the screen, how to contact Fantasy Football Scouts. But in the meantime, it's a goodbye from me.
And a goodbye from me.
Goodbye all.